Newsfirst at 9. Headlines.
A very good evening to you and welcome to Primetime News at 9, live from the Newsfirst Centre in Colombo. I'm Nadim Majid and these are your headlines. ICC World 2020 champions return to the island. Fans in their thousands gather to cheer the heroes. Mahila and Sangakkara expressed their disappointment over a statement made by the secretary of SLC.
ඒ වගේ තරගාවලියකට ඉස්සෙල්ලා ඒ වගේ මානසිකත්වයකට පත් කරපු එක ගැන මග කියන්න ඕන පුද්ගලයන් මහල කියපු ඒ ටිකමයි.
Also in your headlines, Sri Lanka recorded economic growth of 7.3% in 2013, a revelation from the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Well, we'll quickly cross over to the main news desk, but I'll be waiting for you right here with more on Sri Lanka's victory parade.
Good evening, I'm Madhushka Balasurya.
And I'm Nikolari Zoiza.
Well, Nikki, since Sunday night, the whole nation has been in a celebratory mood, and today the triumphant Sri Lankan cricket team who returned to the island were able to join in with the fans.
That's right, Madhushka. Thousands of Sri Lankans gathered on either side of the road today, cheering the Sri Lankan cricket team on and waving the Sri Lankan flag as they made their way to the golf face green from the Bandaranaike International Airport.
That's right, Nikki, and I'll tell you what, I would have loved to be there, but we do have the next best thing with Nadim Majid standing by in the newsroom.
Nadim, over to you.
Well, thank you, Madhushka and Nicola. Well, as the entire country is aware by now, the victorious Sri Lankan team, which won Lanka's first ever ICC World T20 trophy, touched down in Sri Lanka at about 4 o'clock this evening at the Bandaranaike International Airport in Colombo. Now, the team was treated to a red carpet welcome as they disembarked from their chartered flight.
Navakirana nagiyana melak polove Akase piya bayana siyutun galaxy Anante yamu api loke Prouda itihasa vishwasa hada badle Shaktiya ve vividhi era yawana Navadina kata situveli sakasa Dina rata gana mehotak sitala Ek vibrandi inna samaya paturala Hipiri pamayanu yongani Anagata lasana vannata.
Well, that was the teams and their families celebrating the victory with their nearest and dearest. Now, Lasith Malinga, who captained the victorious Sri Lankan team in the final, said that regular captain Dinesh Chandimal's planning had been instrumental in their victory. He made this statement at the media briefing that was convened at the BIA upon the team's arrival. The entire team participated at this media briefing.
As captain, I am extremely fortunate that India qualified for the finals. The knowledge I gleaned from the IPL played an important part. This Indian team had some very prominent batsmen and we were able to restrict them to 130 from 20 overs, having lost only 2 wickets. I think I succeeded in doing that. The experience of the IPL was very important here.
Tiriman was recommended to take my place. He had played very well in the tournament. In addition, he is a very talented cricketer. He cannot be hidden away. So I came before the team and I came to the humble decision that I would not play the remainder of the tournament. I thought that winning the trophy was more important. The trophy was that mattered to all of us. As a cricketer, I am extremely happy. As Malinga said, although there is a saying that Paces cannot captain a team, he proved that it can be done. I feel happiness from the bottom of my heart that we were able to win the World Cup to Sri Lanka.
කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා ඉතින් ඇත්තටම හදවතින්ම හුඟක් සතුටුයි අපේ කුසලානේ අපේ ලංකාවට රැගෙන එන
මම හිතන්නේ දිනේෂ්
I think Dinesh had prepared this plan in the 3 matches he played prior to this. The only thing I had to do was to bring out the talent of the players at that moment. I think I succeeded in doing that.
කරන්න තිබුණ එකම දේ මම හිතනවා මම ඒ දේ ගොඩක් සාර්ථකව කරගත්තා කියලා
අපේ මනස සැකසෙන්න ඕනේ ක්‍රීඩාවට. මොකද අපි අන්තිමට
We have to have the mindset to play. Although we signed the contracts in the end along with Sri Lanka Cricket, we represent Sri Lanka, all of Sri Lanka. If you were to ask Mahela and myself about our future, we cannot give you a long forecast. But if we were able to maintain our physical fitness and our form, we would love to play in the 2015 World Cup. We do not know what will happen beyond that. I think we will count anything beyond that as a bonus.
ඉන්නහාට මොනවා වෙයිද දන්නේ. ඉන්නහාට වෙන දෙයක් අපි මං හිතන්නේ බෝනස් එකක් හැටියට අපි ගණන් අරගන්නවා.
Well, subsequently, the Sri Lankan team embarked on their victory parade from the Katnayaka airport to the golf face green via Sidua, Jaila, Kandana, Mahabage, Handala, Wattala and Palyagoda. Now, fans thronged either side of the parade route to congratulate their champions.
ආකාශේ පිය බායන සියුතුන් ගැලැක්සී අනන්තයට ඉගිලී යමු අපි ලෝකේ ප්‍රෞಢ ඉතිහාසය විශ්වාසය හද බදලේ ශක්තිය වේ විවිධි එන යවුවනේ
නව දිනකට සිතුවිලි සකසා දින රට ගැන මොහොතක් සිතලා එක් වී බැඳී ඉන්න සාමය පතුරාලා ඉදිරියටම යන යෞවනයේ අනාගත ලස්සන වන්නට අටුවද හස් පරදා යමු සැම ඉදිරියට ජය වේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා යෞවනයේ අභිමානය ශ්‍රී ලංකා ජය හේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා යෞවනයේ අභිමානය ශ්‍රී ලංකා.
Well, a very emotional parade, and now we're joined by Newsfirst very own Katrina Chang, who was at the Bandaranaike International Airport when the chartered flight hit the tarmac, and from then on also accompanied the parade. Katrina, can you quickly tell me what was that feeling like?
Well, Nadim, I must say that the feeling is unexplainable because as we came there, it was about 3:30, and to see the team disembarking from the plane itself, even the airport employees had flags and banners held there to cheer on the team, and it was a sense of it was not only the team's victory but as their victory as well, and their friends and families were also there. And it was amazing when we went out of the airport, a large group of people just there with the papare and so much of excitement, and the sense of victory in there was amazing.
Tan, can I quickly ask you, along the parade route, were the cricketers able to, give me a second, I've just been informed that we have live footage from the golf face green where the celebrations are continuing. Let's take a quick look.
ඉතිහාසය විශ්වාසය හද බදලේ ශක්තිය වේ විවිධි එන යවුවනේ
නව දිනකට සිතුවිලි සකසා දින රට ගැන මොහොතක් සිතලා එක් වී බැඳී ඉන්න සාමය පතුරාලා.
Well, as you can see, the fans are still going wild, and those celebrations likely to continue late into the night. Chang, I was going to ask you, can you quickly tell us, along the parade route, were the cricketers able to communicate with the fans that were lining outside the road?
Well, Nadim, I must say that it was more than communication, because that parade in itself was a way for them to communicate and mingle with the public as they were bringing their trophy, and they were taking pictures of the other fans, and the fans themselves were screaming and going wild at the time. And that sense of communication is actually a sense of victory, and I think that victory was needed at this time, especially the festive season.
Well, thank you, Chang. Well, although it wasn't all fun and games, I understand that at the media briefing convened at the Bandaranaike airport, comments were made, allegations were levelled rather, at the secretary in particular of Sri Lanka cricket. Can you tell us what those were?
Yes, let's take a quick look at the statements made by Mahela Jayawardena and Sangakkara at the press meeting.
Mentioned before, let's see. Well, as we were mentioning before, Chang.
Yes, Nadim, let's now take a look at quick statements made by Mahela Jayawardena and Kumar Sangakkara at the media briefing today.
I am disappointed with the response he gave without making inquiries. We are saddened that executive officials of Sri Lanka Cricket went to their media institutions and made statements about us without making inquiries from us first. He should first ask us if we made such a statement. We are saddened that responsible persons caused us to have such a mentality prior to such an important tournament. That is the true story.
Sangakkara, මොකක්ද ඔබේ අදහසේ සම්බන්ධයෙන්?
මට කියන්න තියෙන්නේ මම හිතන්නේ මහේලා ජයවර්ධන මහේලා කියපු ඒ ටිකමයි මොකද
What I have to say is all that Mahela had to say. I said that this was my final World T20 in response to a question posed to me by the Island newspaper. While we answered questions that we were asked, neither Mahela nor I convened a media briefing and made such a statement. I am in full agreement with what Mahela said. Fortunately, I believe we were able to discuss the matter directly with the chairman of the selection committee, Sanat Jayasuriya, and I believe that at the time, he and the two of us understood what had actually transpired here.
කෙලින්ම ඉතින් එතකොට තමයි අපිට තේරුනේ මොකද්ද මම හිතන්නේ එතුමාටත් අපි දෙන්නටත් තේරුනේ මෙතන ඇත්තටම මොකද්ද මේ වෙලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා.
Now once more, those were views expressed by Mahela Jayawardena and Kumar Sangakkara levelling allegations at SLC Secretary Nishantha Ranatunga.
Moving on to other local news, the 2013 annual report of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka was unveiled today. Section 35 of the Monetary Law Act requires the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka to submit a report giving details of the state of the economy, the condition of the central bank, and the policies and measures adopted by the Monetary Board during the year to the Minister of Finance within 4 months of the commencement of the following year. As such, the 64th annual report of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka was presented by the Governor of the Central Bank to Minister of Finance, President Mahinda Rajapaksa, today. The report notes that the Sri Lankan economy rebounded, recording 7.3% growth in 2013, while the main sectors of agriculture, industry and services grew by 4.7%, 9.9% and 6.4% respectively.
රටේ තියෙන මතයක් තමයි
An opinion that persists in the country is that come March, the government will collapse. This is a question that is usually posed to me. I have been asked this question over 10 years, but I see no such collapse. Today, while we have risen from 6 to 7%, it is still insufficient for us. This is not enough and we must rise further. Everyone's support is required for us to do this. Today we have risen to a position where the coconut branch shack of the ordinary man has become an exhibit in museums constructed in luxury hotels. But I am afraid. I fear as to whether the gap between the haves and the have-nots will widen. If this gap is allowed to widen further, I believe that we must exercise vigilance. Some people say that the Arab Spring is drawing close. I do not know of any spring. Some are calling on the people to take to the streets citing the Arab Spring. I am a man that took to the streets and then came to this position. Therefore, I do not feel it as much. Nevertheless, if a government is not good, then it must be toppled and the people will see to it. But we cannot allow for a government to be forced out. You do not need to go to Harvard or any other places to learn how to topple governments. If you come to Madamulana, I will teach you.
Elaborating on economic progress in 2013, the governor of the central bank, Ajit Nivad Cabral, noted that the central bank's policies of maintaining low interest rates and low inflation rates had ensured economic stability.
Your Excellency the President, over the past 5 years, inflation has been maintained at single figures. Inflation at present has reduced to about 4.5%. We have been able to maintain a growth rate of about 7.5% over the past 4 years. Although per capita income was $1,241 in 2005, at present it has increased to $3,280. Unemployment has been reduced to 4.4%. Imports and exports have increased. This shows that our country's economy has grown. Gross reserves have now increased to $7.5 billion US.
American dollar billion 7.5ක් දක්වා සමහර අය මේ තොරතුරු වල සාවද්‍ය භාවය.
Some people raise questions about the factual nature of this information, but none of this information is from the central bank. Apart from the balance sheets of the central bank and the Ministry of Finance, all other information is provided by other people. When considering this information, you will see that in the case of banks, both private and state, information is submitted following an audit of the banks. That is what the central bank presents. The Department of Census and Statistics is not a department of the central bank. It is this department that measures national production under various international standards and then submits the information here, thereby interpreting these statistics in a manner that underestimates the progress of the country is not a suitable sign for the future of the country. What we should do here is to look at the shortcomings in a positive light.
මේ පිළිබඳ අප කළ යුත්තේ ධනාත්මක ලෙස අඩුපාඩු දිහා බැලීම පමණයි.
Still in local news, New York-based Human Rights Watch says the Sri Lankan government's decision to label 16 overseas Tamil organizations as financiers of terrorism is so broad that it appears aimed at restricting peaceful activism by the country's Tamil minority. Human Rights Watch says the government should address its legitimate concerns about foreign terrorist financing primarily through legal cooperation with foreign governments.
Human Rights Watch says the government should provide evidence of the unlawful activity of specific groups and individuals or remove them from the list. The organization adds that the Sri Lankan government's decision to take legal action against individuals having links with the proscribed organizations would place local activists and alleged group members visiting the country at risk of being detained and held without charge under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Brad Adams, the organization's Asia director, said, quote, "The Sri Lankan government is using vague counter-terrorism regulations to tie the major diaspora Tamil groups to the ruthless but defunct LTTE," unquote. He added, quote, "This broad brush sanction could then be used to punish local Tamil activists and politicians with international ties," unquote. Adams noted, quote, "The government is putting all Tamil activists at risk by delegitimizing the major Tamil organizations abroad," unquote.
Sri Lanka's proscribing of 16 organizations for having alleged terrorism links and the listing of 422 individuals believed to have connections with these organizations was also brought up in the Canadian Parliament. Canadian Foreign Minister John Baird said that the Canadian government was deeply concerned that Canadians have been identified and singled out in the list. He made these comments in response to a question posed by Canadian National Democratic Party parliamentarian Paul Dewa.
All Canadians can be tremendously proud that the Government of Canada has taken perhaps one of the strongest reactions to what we see going on in Colombo than any government in the world. We've fought hard. We've fought hard for independent investigations into the number of people and war crimes that took place in the dying days of the Civil War. We fought hard, Mr. Speaker, on the issue of human rights and the growing authoritarian trend of the government in Colombo. And we've fought hard for reconciliation so that the Tamil community can play a full part in the future building of Sri Lanka. As has the Government of Canada, we remain focused on doing all we can to help the Tamil minority to live in peace and security with their neighbors.
Now back here at home, the police say that they are interrogating a suspected LTTE member who was arrested following his deportation from Malaysia. Speaking to Newsfirst, police media spokesperson SSP Ajit Rona elaborated on the investigation.
සාමාන්‍ය නම සුබ්‍රමණියම් කපිලන් නමුත් LTT සංවිධානයේ නන්දගෝප.
His actual name is Subramanian Kapilan, but in the LTTE organization he is identified as Nandagopan. He is a resident of Elai in Jaffna. He joined the LTTE in 1990. He has been identified as a person who served the LTTE for an extended period of time. He had been in charge of the LTTE media unit, and it has been reported that in the final stages of the war, he had been appointed as the head of the Sri Lankan unit of the LTTE's international media network. Reports also indicate that following the end of the war in 2009, he had travelled to Malaysia with a falsified passport. Information has also come to light at present that he visited several countries while there. Nevertheless, in 2013, he was arrested by Malaysian authorities while attempting to travel to Kuala Lumpur to the United Kingdom using a fake passport. A case had been filed against him and he was subsequently imprisoned. After serving his prison sentence, he had been deported to Sri Lanka. He was arrested upon his arrival in Sri Lanka on the 6th of March by officers of the Terrorism Investigation Department. Through such arrest, we hope to prevent another war from arising in this country. We hope to prevent any disharmony from being incited in the country. The Sinhala, Tamil and Muslim communities should live in unity in this country, and there is no need for there to be ever a war in this country. This is why we conduct such investigations.
The Arthur C. Clarke Memorial Lecture 2014, organised by the Arthur C. Clarke Institute for Modern Technologies, was held at the Bandaranaike Centre for International Relations and Strategic Studies last evening.
The event was attended by a distinguished gathering, including the Minister of Technology and Research, Partili Champika Ranawaka. Tributes were placed to a picture of the late Arthur C. Clarke, who is considered as the father of the concept of extraterrestrial communication through geostationary satellites.
While reflect on the famous predictions of the personality that we commemorate, I think it is pertinent to reflect on how the advancement in communication technologies and other space technology applications are being used today, mainly by the so-called industrialized nations of the West. It is a sad fact that some of the most advanced applications, as well as the most enormous budgets, are not in applications that benefit the humankind and the environment, but in the exact opposite direction.
The memorial lecture was delivered by Professor Hiu Ling, who is the director of the Institute of Space and Earth Information Services of the Chinese University in Hong Kong.
In business news, the issuing of licenses for the use of pure Ceylon cinnamon took place at a special ceremony last evening in Colombo. The event was held to officially announce that cabinet approval had been granted for the Sri Lanka Export Development Board to hold ownership of the name Ceylon Cinnamon. The event took place under the auspices of Minister of Industry and Commerce Rishad Bathiuddin and was attended by those involved in the production and export of cinnamon in Sri Lanka.
So much so that Around the World in 40 Days, a 40-day goodwill tour across the globe organised by Newsfirst and Sri Lanka Youth ahead of the 2014 World Conference on Youth bid farewell to Tokyo, Japan today and set off to Australia. The delegation will meet with representatives of Australian youth organisations during their stay in the land down under.
Around the World in 40 Days.
The Sri Lankan delegation was afforded the opportunity to visit an arts centre located in Itako in the Ibaraki province in Japan this morning. These creations can also be witnessed in the ceiling of the Lankaji temple in Kogashima.
Although laser technology is used to create such patterns, I am the one who discovered this method of creating a natural look within these patterns. Therefore, I am the sole owner of this system.
The center is run by a Sri Lankan and its products can be witnessed at a number of Japanese temples.
I have exhibited my works in a number of temples, including those in Thailand, Taiwan, Malaysia and China.
Subsequently, the group set off for Tokyo. This tower that the group came across along the way has been allocated for digital broadcasters.
What you see right here is the Tokyo Sky Tree, the world's second tallest man-made structure, dwarfed only by the Burj Khalifa itself. Now this structure is very significant for the residents of Tokyo. It was declared open in 2012. And on that note, we bid farewell to Tokyo, Japan, and we head to our next destination, which is Sydney, Australia. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Ramesh Bandara with Yasrat Kamalsri from Tokyo, Japan.
Starting off in India, Chief of India's Aam Aadmi Party or Common Man Party, Arvind Kejriwal, said ruling Congress Party and main opposition Bharatiya Janata Party tried to topple his government in Delhi as they were scared of being thrown out. He also said the voters are fed up with both national parties for failing to provide basic services ranging from clean drinking water to safer streets for women.
Kejriwal appealed to the masses to vote for his party in a general election during his roadshow in Northeast area in Delhi.
Keeping in view the security of women, the Chief Minister sat on a hunger strike. One of our politicians, Wake Begula, former Delhi Minister, used to be awake for many nights to take effective steps to the security of women. We worked a lot while our government was in power. Bharatiya Janata Party and Congress drove us out because they were scared. And they decided that they will not allow our government to rule because if we would have ruled for a longer period, both parties would have been thrown out of the capital by the people.
Kejriwal was followed by a large number of supporters and workers as he moved through the streets in the city. Activist turned politician Arvind Kejriwal resigned as Chief Minister of Delhi in February, frustrated by obstacles put in the way of an anti-corruption bill, and immediately proposed fresh elections for the capital. A former tax collector who heads a fledgling Aam Aadmi Party, Kejriwal made a stunning debut in the city's state elections in December, tapping into public disgust with corruption and misgovernance. The general elections will be held in 9 stages, staggering between April 7th and the 12th of May. Already 814 million people have registered to vote, a number exceeding the population of Europe and a world record. Results of the mammoth exercise are due on the 16th of May. Elections in India's sprawling democracy are notoriously difficult to predict. However, translating vote share into actual seats won is not always reliable.
Let's now cross over to our bureau correspondent in New Delhi, Sarmista Saka, who has more details.
People who are going to vote, there is a huge young crowd out there. There is also speculation and there are also opinion polls. The opinion polls are so far suggesting that the incumbent Congress party of Rahul Gandhi may be out by the Hindu nationalist BJP, which is Bharatiya Janata Party, which is led by Narendra Modi at the moment. Meanwhile, there is another incident which is taking place. The populist leader of Bengal and also the Chief Minister of Bengal, Mamata Banerjee, who was elected to topple the left government in 2011, she is having disagreements with the Election Commission. Reportedly, Ms. Banerjee had clashed with the India's Election Commission over its order for the transfer of local officials suspected on bias in the midst of a general election. Senator Sarkar, India.
And with that, we wrap up this edition of Primetime News. I'm Madhushka Balasurya.
And I'm Nicola D'Souza. We'll leave you with the weather forecast for tomorrow. Take care and good night.
Hotline 0114-896-896. www.newsfirst.lk. Feedback at newsfirst.lk.